Hey everybody, today I want to show you the group buffer healer build for the Magicka Templar. The Zen MK build, Zen's Redress and Martial Knowledge are the sets. This build has been around for a while now in endgame content because you are actually making the bosses take more damage from your group, so buffing your whole group's damage. Obviously the healing comes a little bit short, we still have enough healing skills in there to provide AoE heals and synergies. However, you want to run this on one healer and have the other healer wear something like Olorim's and Yorvolds preferably. So the other healer can really keep up the health buffs on the group and the strong heals, whereas you're somewhere in between a DPS, group buffer, and healer with this setup. So let's get right into it. Character sheet. We've got 34k max Magicka. Our max health is over 17k. We've got almost 12k max stamina, and then we've got a really good Magicka recovery of over 2000, so it's 2177. Our spell damage right now is 2231, but that will go up by about 500 as soon as we proc one of our glyphs, and then the spell crit is 29%. We're running 64 points into Magicka, and as a boon, we are running the Atronach Mundustone for increased Magicka recovery. We are not a vampire, obviously, because since this patch it just makes all your abilities cost more, so there's no point anymore for the extra Magicka recovery because that passive does no longer exist. And as you can see here, for food we're running the Witch Mother's Potent Brew, increasing our Magicka recovery, max Magicka, and max health. For potions we are running the Essence of Spell Power, increasing our spell damage and Magicka recovery. You can also get the more expensive ones, which would increase your spell critical. You can also buy them in Cyrodiil now from the Alliance vendors. They're called Spell Power Alliance Draught or something. They have the 3 bonuses of spell crit, spell damage, and Magicka recovery. Hence our spell critical here is only 29% because I'm running the potions that don't enhance the crit at the moment. Alright then, let's go into the skills. The first thing we have from the healer skills still is Energy Orb. This comes from the Undaunted skill line. It starts out as Necrotic Orb, and you want to morph this to Energy Orb. What it does is you cast a orb that floats around the room and heals everybody it passes by for 1000 health every half second. And then energies. Allies can also activate the Healing Combustion synergy, and the orb will explode and heal them for almost 7k and restore almost 4k Magicka or stamina, whichever is their higher resource. So this is a very important skill, not only for the heals when it floats around the room, but more so for the synergy that you give, because DPS run sets that proc off synergies, like something like Locestes from the Sunspire trial for stamina DPS, plus the 4k Magicka or stamina they get back when they activate the synergy can really help out the group sustain, so they don't run low on Magicka or stamina. Next thing we've got, this starts out as Healing Springs, morph it to Illustrious Healing, comes from the Restoration Staff skill line. And what this does is basically a 12 seconds lasting ground field that heals everybody inside of it for 1100 every 1 second for 12 seconds. So the Energy Orb looks like this, just floats by people and then it heals them if it connects to them, as you can see here. And Illustrious Healing looks like this. It's a healing field and everybody inside of it gets healed every 1 second for almost 2k health. The last skill that is healing on the front bar is Combat Prayer, also from the Restoration Staff skill line. This starts out as Blessing of Protection, morph it to Combat Prayer, and what it does is it heals people in front of you, but more importantly it grants your allies Minor Berserk, which increases their damage done by 8%. So it's very important to every 8 seconds, that's how long it lasts. Keep this up on all of your allies. It goes to 6 people, I think. That's why both healers need to run it in trials groups, so that everybody inside of that field here will get 8% more damage done. So you really buff your whole group's damage with this skill, so it's very important to keep that up every 8 seconds. Alright, for the dots that we're running on the front bar, dots meaning damage over time abilities, we've got Vampire's Bane, which comes from the Dawn's Wrath skill lines. The first thing you can unlock starts out as Sunfire, morph it to Vampire's Bane, and what this does is for 14 seconds it will deal flame damage to the enemy, an initial 3,378 flame damage, and then an additional 12k flame damage over the next 16 seconds. Upon activating this, you also gain Major Prophecy, increasing your spell critical rating by 2,119, which is why in our character sheet the spell crit is pretty low. First of all, because I'm not running the crit potions, but you should if you're going for really hard content like veteran DLC trials and hard modes. And Vampire's Bane will then also grant you Major Prophecy, increasing your spell crit, so you don't necessarily need to run the potions if you can promise to keep this up with 100% uptime. And then on the front bar we've got Degeneration. This is a magic damage dot, lasts for 12 seconds and deals 13k magic damage over the 12 seconds it lasts. It also grants you Major Sorcery, increasing your spell damage by 20% for 24 seconds. So you get Major Sorcery from this and Major Prophecy from this, which is why you could, in normal content like normal trials or dungeons or 4-man content, just run the Magicka trash pots. But it's just safer to use the Essence as a spell power to make sure you have that at all times. And then as an ultimate in the front bar from the PvP skill line support, we are using Reviving Barrier. This starts out as Barrier, you come off it to Reviving Barrier, and what it then does is it grants everybody a ward, say a damage shield, that absorbs up to almost 30k damage for 30 seconds, and also heals the group members over 15 seconds for 16k health. This is very strong. If you know there's a lot of damage incoming and people need protection, just pop a barrier. Everybody will get like a 30k damage shield for 30 seconds, and well, it absorbs up to 30k damage about for 30 seconds, and it will also heal them for almost their full health, because most DPS are around 16 to 18k health. So this is a very strong ultimate. You definitely want that on your front bar. Another nice bonus from having this on your front bar is that your Magicka recovery will, just for having it slotted, be increased by 10% if you have your PvP skill lines fully ranked up. If not, it'll only be 5%. Alright, on the back bar then, we have Shock Reach, since we're playing a lightning staff. This comes from the Destruction Staff skill line. Starts out as Destructive Touch, and you must morph it to Destructive Reach to get the damage over time ability. So for 10 seconds, this will do magic damage. Yeah, pretty much it. It's just another damage over time ability that lasts 10 seconds and does magic damage for the time it lasts. As the next dot on the back bar, we have Soul Splitting Trap. This comes from the Soul Magic skill line. What this does is it deals magic damage over 10 seconds as well. And Soul Splitting Trap, the nice thing about it is that compared to Consuming Trap, this counts for AoE situations. So this will not only be a dot on the initial target, but also on the enemies around it, if you're like in an ad pool or you have a bunch of ads there. Consuming Trap would be the other morph. You can also take this. That would give you a little bit of resource spec, but it will only go to one person. And personally, I just like Soul Splitting Trap better because it's more of an AoE. So if you've got a lot of trash pools or ads, you can just help out by putting Soul Splitting Trap on everything and do a little more damage that way in AoE sort of areas. Alright, for healing on the back bar, we have Extended Ritual. This is very important. This comes from the Restoring Light skill line. Starts out as Cleansing Ritual and morph it to Extended Ritual. What this does is it creates a big healing field on the ground. It's a very large one, as you can see. And not only does it give heals over time, but also will it cleanse up to 5 harmful effects from yourself immediately, and then also for the allies that activate the synergy off of the healing field. It's called Purify, and it will cleanse all the harmful effects from them and heal them for 6k health. So it's a very, very strong heal over time. And the synergy is also very good in case your allies get poisoned or catch fire or have any negative effects on them. They can just always use that synergy because you want to keep that field down at all times and cleanse themselves with it. The next thing we've got on the back bar is Luminous Shards. This is another synergy we can give. This comes from the Adric Spear skill line. Starts out as spear shards, morph it to luminous shards, and what it does is it deals magic damage to enemies in the area. It's sort of an AoE damage ability. And then allies can activate the synergy near the spear. It's called Holy Shards, restoring another 4k magicka or stamina, whichever is higher for them. And then they also restore another almost 2k of the other value. So this looks like this. You throw this shard and it will deal damage in that circle here. And people next to the shard can activate the synergy and restore 4k of their main resource, just like they can do with the orb. So you're giving a lot of synergies still, even though you're on the Zen's Martial Knowledge setup. And your allies can take them to keep up their resources and dish out more damage that way. The last thing we've got on the back bar is called Elemental Blockade. In this case, Blockade of Storms, because we're running a lightning stuff. And what this does is it sort of creates a shock field in front of you, and enemies in the area take shock damage every 1 second. And you also have the chance to concuss them and set them off balance for 7 seconds, which means that they will take more damage. This looks like this. Just a random blockade in front of you, and everything inside of it will take shock damage, and you'll have the chance to concuss it and set it off balance, so it will take more damage than it usually would. As an ultimate on the back bar, we still have the Warhorn from the PvP skill line. Starts out as Warhorn, morph it to Aggressive Horn. This is very important because this gives everybody more 10% more max magic and stamina for 30 seconds. And more importantly, it will give them major force, increasing their critical damage done by 15% for 10 seconds. And that is a huge increase, so whenever you know your group is going to have to dish out a whole lot of damage, you're going to want to pull your Warhorn. Or if both tanks and both healers are running it, you just want to have a good rotation on it and say my Warhorn and then wait, and then 10 seconds later the next healer or tank can pull theirs, so that you have the most uptime to the major force, increasing the crit damage for everyone that you can get out of this. Alright, let's get into the sets then. This is where I'll explain why we do run all these damage over time abilities. So, first up, we're using the Zen's Redress set. This adds Magicka Recovery, spell damage, maximum Magicka, and your light attacks apply the touch of Zen's on an enemy for 20 seconds. An enemy with the touch of Zen's will take an additional 1% more damage from all sources for each damage over time effect you've placed on them, up to 5%. So, enemies that are afflicted by this set with the touch of Zen's, if you can put up to 5 damage over time effects on them, they will take 5% more damage from your whole group from all sources. So this is why we are running all the damage over time effects. We want to have 5 dots on the enemy at all times if possible, to have the enemy take 5% more damage from everything your group does. We are running the restoration stuff on the front bar in Charged with a flame damage enchant. Why is that? Because Charged increases the chance to apply a status effect by 220%, and the flame damage glyph will be able to proc the burning status effect. So we've got the burning status effect that counts as a dot from our restoration stuff in Charged with the flame glyph on it. Then we've got Vampire's Bane and Degeneration on the front bar, and then Shock Reach, Soul Splitting Trap on the back bar. So that is 2 dots on the back bar, 2 on the front bar, and the flame glyph on the Charged resto stuff makes 5 dots, which means we can have the full potential of the whole 5% more damage taken of the Zen set. We want the resto stuff in Charged with the flame damage glyph, and then we do want the necklace and ring in Arcane for maximum Magicka with spell damage glyphs on all of them. It's just important to have a little more spell damage, because you will be light attacking quite a lot and you will have these dots running, so you might as well have a bunch of spell damage there to back it up. The next set we're using obviously is Martial Knowledge then. What this does is it gives you max Magicka, spell damage, and while your stamina is below 50%, your light attacks cause the enemies to take 8% additional damage over 5 seconds. This effect can occur every 8 seconds. So you have a 3-second downtime on this, but if you do stay under 50% stamina and you light attack, which is why we have sort of a rotation as well, the enemies will take 8% more damage from the martial knowledge set, and they will take 5% more damage from the Zen set. So that is a whole lot of damage that the bosses will take from all of your group that they usually wouldn't take. You can really buff the group's damage by wearing these two sets. And then last but not least, as a monster set, we're running Symphony of Blade still. This adds healing done, and when you heal an ally who is under 50% of their primary resource, you grant them Meridia's Favor, which restores 550 magic or stamina every 1 second for 6 seconds. So that is about 3,000 then. A little over 3,000 magic or stamina that they get back. And this effect can occur every 18 seconds per target. The resource return is based off the target's highest maximum resource, so that stamina DPS will get stamina back and magicka DPS will get magicka back. Now this set seems like it got nerfed, but it's still pretty good, because now it counts per target actually, whereas before it didn't. So you can give Meridia's Favor to one person, and then they will be on an 18-second cooldown until you can give it to them again. But while the cooldown of that first person is running, you can give it to someone else, and someone else, and someone else, and someone else. So you can still give it to everybody who needs to. Only the same person needs to wait 18 seconds before they can get it again. So it's still quite good. As for the traits, we want the big pieces in infused with tri-stack glyphs, meaning the head, chest, and legs in infused with tri-stack glyphs, and everything else in divines with magic glyphs. So that's the setup, and now the last piece of the setup is the Maelstrom's lightning staff. You want that in infused with a weapon and spell damage enchant, just to add an extra spell damage to your abilities there. You could also put a weakening enchant on there, which reduces the boss's spell damage, but since we are using quite a bunch of dots, I find it more beneficial to the group if you can not only make the boss take more damage, but also do a little bit more damage yourself. We do still have enough healing abilities. We can still throw people an orb for synergies and heals. We can throw a spear for synergies and heals. We always have to put the cleansing ritual down, which gives them heals over time and cleans them from negative effects. And we always can put the healing springs down, which gives them heals over time. And the combat prayer, which gives them heals over time and which also makes them do 8% more damage. So there are enough healing abilities in here still. And for our shit moments, we have the barrier on the front bar as an ultimate. And for damage boost moments, we have the Warhorn on our back bar. Now, you need to bash to stay under 50% stamina. The reason why we still run tri-stack glyphs and not just magicka glyphs, because you could say, why not just not have your stamina increased with the tri-stack glyphs so you don't have to worry so much about it, is because even under 50%, we might still have to quickly roll dodge once or twice. And we won't be able to do that if we only have like 9k stamina, and then at 50% we only have 4k stamina. You might get like one roll dodge done, and then you're just stuck in shit and you can't get out. So more stamina is still good. Just make sure that for the martial knowledge set you stay under 50%. How you can do that? It's pretty simple, just bashing. Bashing costs quite a lot. If you bash a target or a boss, you can get your stamina under 50% quite easily. And also if you block, you won't regenerate any. So that's an easy way to just keep it under. If the boss is, for example, doing a channeling mechanic or something, you can throw your healing fields down until he's attackable again, and then just block so you won't restore any stamina. As soon as he's back up, just bash him, go under 50%, and continue what you're doing. So we need light attacks for martial knowledge, also to be under 50% stamina. And we need to keep our dots up for Zens. Now, the way we do this is you want to sort of have a rotation. You want to fire off all the skills on your back bar and then all the skills on your front bar. Also, though, you want to make sure that Combat Prayer is on your group and that they get the orb every so often to take the synergy and get some heals back from that. So, as a proposed rotation, you could pretty much just put Cleansing Ritual down and then go on and do the Spear, Light Attack, the Reach, Light Attack, the Soul Trap, Light Attack, the Blockade, and you bar swap. Then you want to put your Healing Springs down, throw people an Orb, put Vampire's Bane on, put Degeneration on, give them Combat Prayer, and then bar swap. Spear, Reach, Soul Splitting Trap, Blockade, Degeneration, Healing Springs, Orb, Vampire's Bane, Combat Prayer. So this would be a proposed rotation. Obviously what I did not do in that now is making sure I'm under 50% stamina. So you need to watch out for that. Even if you're going for that rotation thing, just check your stamina bar. We're at 23% now. Now it's 36%, 40%. We can still go on. Everything's alright. And now it's 50%. So now you want to bash once or twice. And then you just go on. That was a bit laggy there, but I'm sure you know what I meant. So you just go on doing what you do. You know, you're over 50, so you bash once or twice. And then you keep on putting your dots down and your healing and your everything. Now, if you want to really perfect this, and this is important, you want to make sure that your whole rotation is probably like 12 seconds or so, but your combat prayer only lasts for 8. So if you get really good with that, you want to make sure combat prayer is up at all times. So you might put it down at first, then start the rotation, then count down the 8 seconds, and then recast it here. Just go about your business, go back to your back bar, and then you will realize, oh shit, combat prayer is running out. So just quickly swap, do another, and swap back to your back bar and keep on what you're doing. This has to do with dot and skill up times. This is very hard to do because you will sort of, on the PlayStation 4 we don't have any buff trackers. There is nothing that tells you, dude, your combat prayer is running out in 3, 2, 1. You'll just have to keep an eye on it yourself. So this makes it hard. However, if you can't do that, if you just go with the standard rotation, back bar, front bar, back bar, front bar, it'll still be good enough. You won't have 100% uptime on combat prayer. Also, realize that there is a synergy, there is a cooldown, like a global cooldown on how often you can take a synergy. So you won't have to throw the orb in every rotation, but maybe every second rotation. And then also realize that extended ritual lasts for 24 seconds. So you only have to do that like every second or third rotation. So if you put it down in the beginning, then go about your business. And you come back to your back bar, you won't have to do extended ritual again, because it will still go for like another 15 seconds. So you just do what you're doing. We're not throwing an orb now either. We'll just do the dots, keep those up, and then swap back to our back bar. Ritual is still down. Stamina went over 50 though. I'm not good with keeping that up, to be honest. So we're throwing an orb now, and we're going about our business here. You can see my magicka go down quite a bit. Now we're recasting ritual because it's been a while. And you need to always make sure that you're under the amount of stamina, the 50%. It is hard. It is not an easy build to play, I'm not gonna lie, because you need to watch out on your dot times, you need to watch out on your group that they're not dying, you also need to watch out on your own stamina that it's under 50%, and you also need to watch out on your own magicka that you're not overcasting skills, because they do cost quite a bit, and if you have a rotation, you are sort of in the swing of things, and then it makes you to be less likely to watch what's going on around you. So yes, this is hard to play. However, if you can perfect this, you will give the group 5% more damage from Zens, 8% more damage from martial knowledge. You will give them so many buffs, combat prayer, everything. And you will also actually dish out quite a bit of, quite a good amount of damage on yourself too, because all these dots you're running actually do damage. So much for that. I really hope you enjoy this. We'll quickly go into the champion points. 72 Ironclad, 16 Spell Shield, 56 Elemental Defender and Hardy, 51 Thick-Skinned, 19 Quick Recovery. The red ones are obviously depending on the trial you're running. There's different CP setups for different trials, especially on Veteran and Hard modes. Green, we've got 31 in Warlord, we've got 13 in Sprinter, 75 in Tenacity and Arcanist, and then 20 in Shadow Warden, 56 into Tumbling, 75 and 75 each in Blessed and Elfborn for our healing done and our crit healing. 64 in Elemental Expert, 9 in Spell Erosion, 16 in Staff Expert, and 31 in Thaumaturge. You can also take out a couple of Elemental Expert if you prefer and put them into Thaumaturge if you really want to boost your dots even more. However, make sure that you've got even percentage numbers. There is no difference for the game if it's 13.1% or 13.50%. That they only only gets increased when you hit full numbers. So the next increase would be 14%. So whenever you're distributing CP and playing around with that yourself, just make sure that you are always hitting full numbers, or the next best full number that you can get anyway. Okay, I hope I didn't forget anything. We've gone through the sets and through the skills. The race, yeah, just quickly get into that. I'm a Breton right now for the extra mag recovery and skill cost reduction. It really helps out with the build, but it's also possible to run this on an Argonian without any problems whatsoever. If you feel like you're running low on Magicka Recovery, just make one of these glyphs here a Magicka Recovery glyph and run the Atronach Mundustone for increased mag recovery. So if you're an Argonian, you're perfectly fine to do this still. It runs a little bit smoother on a Breton, but that's not to say that Argonians can't do it, because they can. Okay, so so much for that. This is the Zen's Martial Knowledge group buffer build, or boss debuffer, however you want to see it. There will be another just random healer build for 4-man content and trials for the Templar up soon as I finished farming and transmuting all the Roaring Opportunist stuff, so I can actually test if it's worth running that, or if our heavy attacks don't even do enough damage to make a difference really with the set. But that might take a while, because I haven't really gotten around to farming Kain's Aegis a lot. So, yeah, this is sort of an endgame build. I hope you enjoyed this, though, anyway. If you have a Templar Healer, it's definitely a cool thing to get these two sets and test them out, just so you have them at hand, in case you ever wanted to use them, or were asked to use them if you're getting into the endgame content, and also to level up skills like Degeneration, Vampire's Bane, Soul Trap, Destructive Reach, Shock Reach. It's something that Templar healers who are serious about endgame should definitely do, even if they have not been into keeping dots up and running Zen's MK yet. It's just a good thing to have for later on then. Alright, I hope you enjoyed this. Have a good time, guys. I'll see you next time.